For this week's assignment, you are going to create an annotated bibliography of all the sources you have collected about your approved research topic. To do that, you will want to make sure that your topic has been approved. If you do not have an approved topic, what you need to do right now is pitch a topic and get it approved. Then you are going to write an annotated bibliography for your 3 sources found through the Valencia Library Catalog and databases and 2 websites for 5 total sources. The annotated bibliography will consist of works cited entries for all 5 sources, and each source will include an annotation of 8 to 10 sentences, including the following: a summary of the source, an assessment of the source, and a reflection. And we'll talk about each of these in just a moment. I provided some guided questions. You don't have to answer every one of these questions in your summary or in your assessment or in your reflection. It's to give you an idea, though, of how to approach your annotations for your annotated bibliography. I've also provided a sample, which we will look at momentarily. But first, let's walk through what an annotated bibliography is. So an annotated bibliography is a list of sources, so books, journals, websites, periodicals that you have used while researching a topic. Bibliographies are sometimes called references or works cited, depending on the style format you're using. So in MLA, we call those works cited. So it's just the bibliographic information, your works cited entry. An annotation for this type of summary is different than a markup of the text. Instead, it's a summary and evaluation of the source. So when we put it together, an annotated bibliography includes a summary and or evaluation of each of your sources for a project. So this is really the place in your research project where you have found your 5 sources and you are determining how you might use those sources in the future when it comes to actually planning and writing your essay. So this is a lengthy writing assignment that feels a little bit essay-like, but it's not your actual essay. You're just going through each of the sources, reading through them, trying to understand what they're saying, and determining how you will use them. So the components of an annotation includes a citation of the source, a summary of the source, an evaluation or assessment of the source, and a reflection. So the summary is simply a summary of the source, and it is going to include the basic points of what the source is about. So what are the main arguments? What is the point of the book or article? What topics have been covered? If someone asked what this article or book is about, what would you say? The length of your annotations will determine how detailed your summary is. Then we'll move into your evaluation or assessment section. After you summarize the source, you need to evaluate it. By doing this, you're going to consider, is this a useful source? How does it compare with other sources in your bibliography? And is the information reliable? Is the source biased or objective? What is the goal of the source? So when you're evaluating, you're really determining how reliable the source is and how it compares to your other sources. Remember, you have to have a refutation section of this paper. So you'll want to make sure at least one of your sources speaks to what a potential counter argument is and how you might refute that counter argument. You'll need sources that provide background information. You'll need sources that help you come up with proposing actions or solutions that people can take related to your topic. So you'll have a variety of different sources that are operating, doing different things, or they should be, to effectively support you as you write your essay. You will finish out by providing a reflection. So once you've summarized and assessed a source, you'll need to ask yourself how it fits into your research. Is the source helpful to you? How does it help you shape your argument? How can you use the source in your research project? Has it changed how you think about your topics? So here, you're really going to consider how the source is going to be useful to your specific paper. Even though you could, in theory, include a source on your annotated bibliography that might not be that helpful to your paper, I want to caution you against that because we have very little time. In 2 days after you submit your annotated bibliography, your outline for the essay will be due. And then 6 days after that, the final essay is due because of the abbreviated nature of this course. As such, you really want to go ahead and find good sources, spend the time here to find sources that will be helpful to you and your paper so that you are not looking for sources as you are creating your outline and then writing your paper. All right, so what I want to do now is hop back over to the assignment page and have a brief look at a sample. So this is the sample annotated bibliography that goes with the sample essay that is provided for this project. I want to draw your attention to a couple of things. First, the page setup is in MLA format. He's using MLA 9. He starts by providing his research question. So his research question is, do Superfund sites near Indian reservations have a negative effect on the health of the natives living on those reservations? When he goes to write his actual paper, basically the research question is the underpinning for your thesis statement. So the answer to the research question is the thesis statement. You won't actually include your research question anywhere in your paper. Instead, your paper will serve as an answer to what your question was. Then he has his title, Annotated Bibliography, Superfund Sites Effects on Native Americans' Health. And then he gets into his first citation. So he has provided a citation of his source. You'll notice that he's using the hanging indent for his citation. Additionally, his sources are going to be in alphabetical order. His first one started with a D. Now we have an F. Then we have an H, so on and so forth. I mentioned this in a previous assignment, but also notice that he's including access dates. This is student work, which means there could be errors. For example, typically you would put a period after the access date. After that 2022, there should be a period there. Now let's look at his first annotation. I'm not going to read all 5 of them to you, but I want you to get the idea. Remember, there's 8 to 10 sentences required per annotation. And here's what he said. In the academic article, the Elam tribe's last stand, a small band of Native Americans living next to one of the world's most contaminated mercury mines, is struggling to hold on to its 14,000-year-old home. Members of the Elam tribe discussed what it's like living on a reservation next to a superfund, in this case, the Clear Lake Mercury Mine. The author, Nathaniel Dalton Thornton, interviews one of the Elam tribe's cultural leaders, James Brown Eagle. Brown Eagle describes how the federal government never formalized and initiated a treaty granting the Elam tribe full use of the Clear Lake land. After many years, they were left with a small parcel of land next to a contaminated mercury mine. This article also discusses how the mercury mine has negatively affected the health of the native population living near it and has caused a tumultuous relationship between the tribe and the federal government and the EPA. So this is all summary of the article. Then he's going to move into his assessment and then reflection. Lots of times the assessment and the reflection kind of go hand in hand. So it makes sense to break this into 2 parts, having a summary and then having the evaluation, assessment, and reflection section together. You could do it all in 1 paragraph. You could divide it into 3. In any case, the goal is that you need to very clearly have all 3. So here's his assessment and reflection. The article may be biased because it centers on the viewpoint of the Elam tribe and not the federal government or EPA. However, it's important to view things from the perspective of those negatively affected to hear their story. This is just one instance of environmental hazards affecting native tribal land, but it is useful to paint a picture of the realities that these tribes are facing. The source helps to show how the proximity of superfunds can have a negative effect on the health of natives who live near them. It also showcases how an effort has been made to clean up sites, which gives a counter argument to the research thesis. So here we are told, yep, it might have some bias, but we need to understand varying perspectives. And then he gets into, and this is how I could use this information. It's going to provide information about the negative effect on health, and it's also going to help serve as part of the counter argument, how he's going to present a counter argument and refute it. Again, I'm not going to go through each of these, but I did want you to see what's happening here. I encourage you strongly to look through this student's sample annotated bibliography. Again, 8 to 10 sentences to cover the summary, assessment, reflection. It makes sense to couple assessment and reflection together and then keep summary to itself, or you could do 3 separate paragraphs. You could do 1 paragraph as long as you have all 3 parts very clearly present. The goal is to make sure that you have all 5 sources and all 3 parts of the annotation in each one, and that you're using MLA 9. I'll also show you the rubric This assignment's worth 10 points, so 10% of your grade. You will earn a point for each one of your annotations, so your write-ups of your sources. Then MLA's worth 3 points, and proofreading and editing's worth 2 points. So you'll want to be mindful of each part of this rubric and how what you do will impact your work. If you have questions or need help, please reach out to me.